What's up, folks? Francis here. Over the time running my agency business over years, there's this hidden marketing principle that has been hidden over time, but big giants use it. We're speaking of giants like Nike, Adidas, and so forth. And when you look at the big giants here in Uganda, we're speaking of MTN, Nile Breweries, Airtel Uganda, but I'll typically highlight on just one brand in particular. Maybe it could be Nike or MTN, but this principle I'm talking about is called the rule of seven. Most most salespeople and marketers have heard of it. Literally, these big giants have used it for decades and decades, much more for very many years. And how this rule works is, let's just say for a brand like MTN Uganda, once you touch down the airport, you find ads by MTN. While you're driving on the freeway, maybe Northern Bypass, you see some ads that are popping up from MTN, enticing you about their products and encouraging you to buy. When you go to the shopping malls, maybe you're going to Acacia down the lane, you're seeing some ads by MTN. So what the rule of seven does is usually a customer is supposed to see several touch points. Maybe we're talking about 7 touch points over time in order for them to make a decision to buy, right? So these brands we're talking about brands like Nike, MTN, Nile Breweries, which other brands? We have Stanbic Uganda, these are some of the biggest brands here in Kampala. These brands have been using this skill set for over some time. So within these touch points, I'm speaking of touch points, you've touched down the airport, you just touched down into the country, you're seeing these ads on your freeway, you've seen MTN sponsoring Uganda Cranes, their ads are all over the sports field. And what I'm here to say is, over the years, while I've been running a creative business, I just want to bring it up in a way that I can maybe help artists, designers, maybe agencies, maybe share something that they use and how this rule really applies to us. So speaking of the creative business, any business in the industry of service, servicing clients and all that, I would love to share something on how we can apply that principle in our business. So assuming a client calls you today and they say, hey, we are interested in your work, we would love to collaborate with you on a specific project. And the biggest challenge and problem that I've seen across designers make is usually, they say, oh, we get over the call, and right after the call, they get down to email, script something, and just email the proposal based on what the client discussed earlier on, based on their requests. So usually such feedbacks are only using two touch points. You just can't call a client and then send a proposal right away. You're only using 2 touch points. We're talking about 7 touch points here. That's what the 7 rule principle runs by. So here's how you can apply it to your business as a creative person or someone in the service-based industry kind of business. So usually what happens, from my experience over the years, we've made immense revenue using this principle over years. And what we usually do, usually it starts maybe with a call, a wake-up call. Maybe a client calls you, maybe somebody referred them to you, and you get on a call with a client. That's the first touch point. You're basically getting to hear their voice. You're trying to figure out if this is a really good fit. You're trying to figure out whether you can help them or not, because you just can't take on everything that comes your way. There are things you realize you'll be able to do for your clients, and there are things that are not in line with the services you're providing. So usually if you're doing web design and you have a client who comes in, maybe they need an illustration, it's very okay to be polite with them and say, hey, we are not in that line of specialization, so it's okay not to take on everything that comes your way. So This is the first touch point. Get on the call, get to discover what the client needs. Now, if you figure out during this conversation that you can take it much further, you probably could follow up with a request for a discovery meeting. Maybe, oh, I think this could be a good fit. Why don't we arrange a meeting, physical meeting, maybe this Friday? We get to discuss more. We get to learn more about your business. Now, this is the second touch point. First of all, you call the client, get to know if you're the right fit. The next thing is say, maybe you would love to request for a discovery meeting, right? So during your discovery meeting, assuming it's a Friday, could be a Wednesday or Monday, whatever time you schedule. During your discovery meeting, you're trying to scope the project. You're trying to scope what the client wants. You're trying to figure out if you can meet the requirements. And maybe the client also is trying to figure out if they can even take this collaboration further. So this is the second touch point. Before we even think of drafting a proposal, we are trying to extract all the information we need from the client. This is the second touch point, discovery meeting. Now, right after the discovery meeting, you don't stop there. You could go online, maybe via LinkedIn, and request the client to connect with you via LinkedIn. And while you do that, you also follow up with a thank you email, thanking them for taking their time to meet with you, and maybe you're excited about the prospect of meeting with them again, or maybe working with them, or something like that. So these are, you realize I've talked about like 2 touch points here. First of all, you call, you initiate a discovery meeting, then you follow up on LinkedIn, then fourth, you're sending a thank you mail. So while you're doing this, you're crafting the proposal, and while you're done with the proposal, you go further and touch base with the client, maybe connect with them on a call and say, hey, we finalized your proposal. Can we schedule a meeting this weekend, this Friday or this Monday early in the week, so we can discuss your proposal? We would love to present to you what we put together based on the brief that we required from you earlier. So the rule here is never send proposals again by email. Always present proposals in physical or in person, right? So you just have to get it right. No emailing proposals. That's the number one rule you should run by as creative. Always present proposals in person. So while you present your proposals, assuming the time you guys have scheduled has come up, you're presenting your proposal to your client. The client seems interested. Now you have to find a way to synchronize, to sync with the client. Are there any objectives in the proposal? Is there any kind of fallback on the proposal that the client would love to go over? Maybe you guys can meet each other halfway. Once those things are addressed, you follow up with an email. I'm talking about now, this is like the 6th touch point. First of all, you've presented the proposal as the 5th touch points. Now you're following up with an email, thanking them for taking the time to meet with you. And within this email, maybe you're trying to connect with them later on and say, hey, if you have any questions or maybe any concerns that you feel were shared in the proposal that we presented to you, we could be free this Friday or Thursday, whatever it is, whatever day that you guys have planned, whatever time the client has. You could schedule a day in a week where you can just sit down with the client and schedule a Q&A with the client and figure out what is it in the proposal that is not in alignment, such that once you agree on those things, then you can agree moving forward with the contract. So there are 7 touch points I've discussed here when you're applying the 7 rule to our design process or proposal process. First of all, you get on a call, you get onto the discovery meeting, you follow up on LinkedIn, proceed with the email, touch base with the client and present the proposal physically, and follow up with the call afterwards or thank you email, scheduling a Q&A session where you can address all issues the client could be having. And then once all of you are a perfect match, then it's okay to proceed forward with the standard operating procedures, the contract is basically a contract that you decide to move forward with. So why this could work in your favor is somebody could say, oh, hey, this is a long process. Jeez, it's really long, like a long process. Why don't I just mail my proposal to the client? Usually, from my past experience, clients get to understand that you're organized, even if the other designer or agency is charging a lower price and maybe you're charging a higher price. Maybe somebody has built something like 200K for a logo and maybe you've built around $1 million shillings for a logo. Chances are high that the client might choose to work with you because they see value. They have that client experience they've had with you all the way from the first touch point to the last touch point, like I've shared earlier. So let me know what you think about this input. I'll be right here watching your